To mark Earth Day, the Ecology Action Centre, Nature Nova Scotia, and the Tourism Industry Association of Nova Scotia commissioned a survey on land conservation. It found the majority of Nova Scotians want the province to protect more land. And for more on this, we're joined by Raymond Plourde, Senior Wilderness Coordinator with the Ecology Action Centre. So walk us through what you discovered with this survey.
Right. So we commissioned Narrative Research, a very credible polling firm of long-standing here in Nova Scotia, to poll Nova Scotians about their attitudes on protected areas. And they recommended that we provide sort of the alternatives or the choices in an honest and non-biased way. So the question essentially was, where some feel that we need to protect more land in Nova Scotia for biodiversity conservation, and where others may feel that it is too costly, particularly for resource extraction industries. All things considered, do you support for more protected wilderness areas, the same amount, or less? And the statistics that came back, the survey said that a very strong majority of Nova Scotians supported more conservation of wilderness areas or the same. So they totaled together 94%. That's quite a majority. And for more, it was 67%, 27% for the same, and only 3% said that we should have less protected areas.
Were you surprised by those numbers?
No, actually, we were pleased, but they're in line with surveys that we've done in the past and others have done in the past, which have shown a fairly consistent high level, around 70% support for more wilderness protection.
Well, as you mentioned, though, there is a push for resource development. How does that work hand in hand? Is that a clash of two ideals?
Well, certainly it's opposing forces, if you will, at times, but that doesn't necessarily need to be. My perspective is that development must happen at the same time as conservation, and that, to use an analogy, if you were going to renovate your home, you would choose what parts to save and before you take down the parts that you want to change. And so protecting the remaining or the most significant ecological areas, particularly on public land, where most of it exists still, is critically important to meeting our conservation targets, which are embedded in law. But at the same time, there are other areas that can, be developed or used for extraction. And the reality is that the commitment from Nova Scotia is 20%, leaving 80% for all of the human endeavors, and really only 20% for all the other species that we share the province with.
What if the discovery of a resource is on that 20%, though? What do you think might happen at that point? Do they just designate a different area, or how does that work?
I can't predict how that scenario might unfold.
Does it concern you that it could unfold that way?
Well, it could. This is how we lose natural areas, is because somebody somewhere can make a profit from doing something extractive or development of some kind. But really, we need to choose the best areas of habitat that remain, which are quite small in this highly fragmented little province of ours, and protect them. I would say that the conservation priority should come first in terms of selecting areas. But I also know that in the government process, they work hard to avoid areas of high resource development potential, mining in particular. So it shouldn't be an issue, but we do need to move forward quickly, or those areas will be lost.
Now, the goal of having the province's 20% of the province's land protected by 2030, a lot of groups think that may not happen, right?
Well, it should happen. They still have 3.5 years, and if they accelerate their efforts and put more backbone into it, that still can be achieved, and we are optimistic that that the province can do this. It's a question of political will. But on that topic, it's really important to remember that in 2021, the Houston government promised in its election campaign to reach this target, and then they embedded it in their flagship environmental legislation. So it is a law to reach this target and to do so sincerely and appropriately. And so they need to actually meet their commitments. They asked for and received a mandate in 2021 to do that. And they haven't really asked for and received a similar mandate for all the resource extractions. So if I were to say which one should be the priority, it's the one that you promised and that the public gave you a mandate to do. And so I also would want to emphasize that this is really Nova Scotia's part in a much larger picture that involves Canada's commitments for 30% protection of our land and water, and that is under a international treaty that all nations have signed, all nations are working on. Some are ahead of Canada, some are behind. We're about middle of the pack, and we need to continue to do our part in the global effort to halt the precipitous decline of biodiversity.
That includes a big drop in actual wild mammals.
It's incredible. Just in the last 50 years, so the World Wildlife Fund's recent nature report highlighted that we have lost 73% of wildlife in just the last 50 years. And that species are going extinct at a rate of about 1,000 times natural background levels. And that, well, as a sobering statistic to kind of help frame the idea, scientists have found that of all mammal species on Earth today, 34% are humans. And almost the bulk of the rest are our livestock at 64%. That means that only 4% of all mammals on Earth are wildlife, from the biggest whales to the smallest mice. That's all that's left, and they're going down. And we feel and see that here in Nova Scotia as well, with lots of endangered species and so on. So it's our part in a national and international effort that we must accomplish if we are going to leave any kind of living planet behind for our descendants.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, Amy, as always.